morning, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you a live update on the story that originally came out earlier today that the FBI has arrested a Milwaukee County judge for allegedly trying to help an undocumented immigrant evade arrest. So we want to bring you an update on this story, take some comments and questions from you guys. You can write to me on X, at Lookner is where you can reach me, at Lookner on X. And let me just check something here about the sound real quick, because I noticed something. Let's see. Bump this a little bit. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Seems all right. And we're going to be taking your comments on the air and showing you the latest updates on this story. Thank you for joining. Oh, also, I do want to mention, I had already posted this on our social media accounts, but we will be covering in about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours, we will have late night coverage, live coverage of the funeral of Pope Francis. The actual funeral starts at 4 Eastern time, but we'll come on a bit before that. So if you're awake or you're somewhere in the world, well, wherever you are in the world, if you're awake and you want to watch, we will be covering early Saturday morning in about, again, 7 hours, the funeral of Pope Francis. So feel free to join us for that. Hey, a quick thank you, by the way, I really appreciate it, to Dewey. Thanks, Dewey, for the gift memberships. Thanks to our moderator, Eamon O'Leary. And I am back. I just got back in last night from Lima, Peru. So I am back in Boston where I normally am. Thank you for bearing with me doing broadcasts from Lima on my backup setup. Hopefully everything is working here. We'll see. This is the first stream I've done in this studio in a little while, so hopefully everything works. Hey, thanks to Allison F. Ali Fally for being a member. And thanks to all of our moderators who are here. We have One Way Street and Roberts May Queen, Beth Mythical, all moderating over there on YouTube. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to our Twitch moderators, Big Ball of Yarn, Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches. Thank you. Also, thanks to Warlord Gord for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks also to our members, Rule. Yes, thank you, Rule. I did. Thank you, Rule. I appreciate that for being a member. Thanks, Shorty, for being a member. Shorty6890. Thanks also to our ex-moderators, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha, and our Facebook moderators, too. Kay Lowry Body is modding. Thanks, Kay. Margaret Riley as well. Thanks so much to our mods. Thanks, LT, for subscribing over on Facebook, by the way. And Rita Evans Lang. And thanks to Lady Butterfly, our member. Thank you. Okay, so let's get you, and also Zarina77. Thank you. I'm not going to really be talking about my trip on this channel, but I will be doing, I did a number of videos on my trip on my personal channel, which is Lookner on YouTube and Looknerd on Twitch. And I'll probably do some more videos at some point talking about the trip. So if you want to catch those, check out my personal channel, Lookner on YouTube and Looknerd on Twitch. By the way, just before we came on the air, the FBI director, Kash Patel, posted a photo of the arrest, I believe it was this morning, of this Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan. And here's the photo that he, with the caption he posted, he's, excuse me. Oh. Kash Patel posted a photo of the arrest with the caption, "No one is above the law." So here's the photo right here. Let me maybe make it bigger for you. See, it says, "No one is above the law." But maybe I can get it a little bigger on the screen. That's what I'll do. Oops. Is this going to work? Here is the photo that Kash Patel posted. Oops. There it is right there. That is the arrest earlier today of Hannah Dugan. We by the way, I have a copy of the criminal complaint, so I'm going to actually read you what the criminal complaint says happened, so you can get the facts from the criminal complaint, the alleged facts on this. So we're going to actually go over that. The basic idea is that federal authorities showed up at this judge's county courthouse and to arrest someone who had a hearing at the courthouse for something different. And the authorities allege that the judge attempted to help the person evade arrest, although the person was arrested pretty quickly, right outside the courthouse. I'll show you in a couple minutes. We'll look at the criminal complaint. We'll look at the detailed criminal complaint, laying out the allegations of fact. But let me give you a little summary here. First of all, we'll be taking your comments as well. There's a picture of the judge, Hannah Dugan. So you can see, AP says, FBI arrests a Milwaukee judge accused of helping a man evade immigration authorities. Okay, so we have, hold on a moment here. You can see AP says the FBI on Friday arrested a Milwaukee judge accused of helping a man evade immigration authorities, escalating a clash between the Trump administration and local authorities over the Republican president's sweeping immigration crackdown. Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan, who you see right there in that picture from AP, is accused of escorting the man and his lawyer out of her courtroom through the jury door last week, after learning that immigration authorities were at the courthouse seeking his arrest. The man was taken into custody outside the courthouse after agents chased him on foot. President Trump's administration has accused state and local officials of interfering with his immigration enforcement priorities. The arrest also comes amid a growing battle between the administration and the federal judiciary over the president's executive actions over deportations and other matters. Dugan was taken into custody by the FBI on Friday morning on the courthouse grounds, according to the U.S. Marshal Service. She appeared briefly in federal court in Milwaukee later Friday before being released from custody. She faces charges of concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest and obstructing or impeding a proceeding. Her attorney said Judge Dugan wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. It was not made in the interest of public safety. The Wisconsin Governor Democrat Tony Evers accused the Trump administration of repeatedly using dangerous rhetoric to attack and attempt to undermine our judiciary at every level. I will continue to put my faith in our justice system as the situation plays out in the court of law, he said. I'm going to show you guys, I have the criminal complaint. We're going to go over that in detail, and you'll see the specifics on this. I'm giving you just a little summary here from this AP story about what happened. The FBI court papers suggest that Judge Dugan was alerted to the presence of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in the courthouse by her clerk, who was informed by an attorney that they appeared to be in the hallway. The FBI affidavit describes Dugan as very visibly angry over the arrival of immigration agents in the courthouse and says that she pronounced the situation absurd before leaving the bench and retreating to her chambers. It says she and another judge later approached members of the arrest team inside the courthouse, displaying what witnesses described as a confrontational, angry demeanor. After a back and forth with officers over the warrant for the man, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, she demanded that the arrest team speak with the chief judge and led them away from the courtroom, the affidavit says. After directing the arrest team to the chief judge's office, investigators say, Dugan returned to the courtroom and was heard saying words to the effect of, "Wait, come with me," before ushering Flores Ruiz and his lawyer through a jury door into a non-public area of the courthouse. The action was unusual, the affidavit says, because only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies used the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. A sign that remained posted on Dugan's courtroom door Friday advised that if any attorney or other court official knows or believes that a person feels unsafe coming to the courthouse to courtroom 615, they should notify the clerk and request an appearance via Zoom. Flores Ruiz, 30 years old, was in Dugan's court for a hearing after being charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor domestic battery. Confronted by a roommate for playing loud music on March 12th, Flores Ruiz allegedly fought his roommate in the kitchen and struck a woman who tried to break them up, according to the police affidavit in the case. Flores faces up to 9 months in prison and a $10,000 fine on each count if convicted. Let's see here. Flores Ruiz... a federal judge yesterday had ordered that Flores Ruiz remain jailed pending trial. Flores Ruiz had been in the U.S. since re-entering the country after he was deported in 2013, according to court documents. Attorney General Pam Bondi said victims were sitting in the courtroom with state prosecutors when the judge helped him escape immigration arrest. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, said the judge put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, it's absurd that had to happen. Tammy Baldwin, a Democrat, a senator who represents Wisconsin, called the arrest of a sitting judge a gravely serious and drastic move that threatens to breach the separation of power between the executive and judicial branches. The case is similar to one, says AP, that was brought during the first Trump administration against a Massachusetts judge who was accused of helping a man sneak out a back door of a courthouse to evade a waiting immigration enforcement agent. That prosecution sparked outrage from many in the legal community who slammed the case as politically motivated. Prosecutors dropped that case against Newton District Judge Shelley Joseph in 2022 under the Democratic Biden administration after she agreed to refer to herself to a state agency that investigates allegations of misconduct by members of the bench. The Justice Department had previously signaled it was going to crack down on local officials who thwart federal immigration efforts. I know, I'm sorry, I usually don't read this much at once, but I wanted to kind of get the background out from this article. We're going to look at the criminal complaint too, which gets a little more specific. But I just wanted to get the general idea of what's going on out there. The Justice Department, Trump's Justice Department in January ordered prosecutors to investigate for potential criminal charges. I assume this was the Trump Justice Department. Any state and local officials who obstruct or impede federal functions. Okay. Judge Dugan was elected in 2016 to the County Court Branch 31. She also has served in the court's probate and civil divisions before she was elected to public office. She practiced at Legal Action of Washington and Legal Aid Society. She graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison, got a JD from there as well. So the basic idea here is that, again, the judge had a case that she was hearing today involving a man who was in the country, who's an undocumented immigrant. He was not legally in the country. and some federal authorities showed up at the courthouse, asking, threatening to, for the purpose of arresting him. She was not happy with this, and according to authorities, she let the person, the immigrant, out of her courtroom in a certain way, which was not the usual way. He was soon after that arrested. I believe he was arrested right next to the courthouse. Anyways, I've heard a couple things to keep in mind here. Now, I'm not a legal expert. I'm certainly not a legal expert about Milwaukee. But a couple things to keep in mind here. One is, from what I have heard and read today, federal authorities arresting a local judge like this is not a common occurrence. I guess now you might say, well, I mean, if a judge went out and robbed a bank, you might expect federal authorities to go arrest them. So for this kind of case, though, from what I understand, it's pretty rare. Also, I am not aware with what the usual conventions are in different court systems about whether there is some sort of convention about whether authorities are usually, I don't know if allowed is the right word legally, but I believe that in some court systems it is not looked upon well if authorities try to show up at the courthouse and arrest somebody who is there. We'll talk about that a little more, but I know some of the officials, local officials in Milwaukee who talked about this today, said they were concerned about arresting people at courthouses because then people might not want to show up to courthouses when they have proceedings. Just as an example here, I'm going to take some comments in a second, but from this Washington Post article about this, you can see it says here, down here, where is it here? Immigration authority, judges in some jurisdictions have criticized efforts by immigrations and customs enforcement agents to locate and detain immigrants at local courthouses, saying the practice makes it more difficult to ensure undocumented immigrants will show up for court proceedings in which they are victims, defendants, or witnesses. I believe this is Crowley, I believe, is the Milwaukee County executive. He said in a news conference this afternoon, even if you're an undocumented immigrant, we need you to be able to understand this is a safe space for us. They may be a witness in a crime. They may be a victim in a crime. And if they're a witness, for example, we need them to be able to come into this building and feel safe to be able to talk, to actually be a witness. Anyways, so I'm just throwing that out there as there is an aspect to this where, from my understanding, is that at least in some court systems, in some locations, it is not expected, or I guess you could say welcomed, that law enforcement would show up at a courthouse to try to arrest somebody who is, for immigration authorities would show up at a courthouse to try to take somebody into custody who is involved in a court proceeding at the courthouse. I'm not saying you have to agree with this point of view. I'm just trying to let you know the point of view. Okay. So let me take some comments from you guys. We're going to go through the criminal complaint about what happened. As I mentioned, that is a picture of Judge Dugan right there. And just before we came on the air, Kash Patel, the FBI director, posted a picture of her getting arrested this morning with the caption, "No one is above the law." And again, I'll just real quick show you that picture again before taking some comments from you guys. I have to just get it up on the screen here. Here is the picture of the arrest. Right there. By the way, quick thanks to, I really appreciate it, to Faustonia. Hey, thanks, Faustonia. I guess another channel recommended this channel. Scribelight's channel. Thanks, Scribelight, for recommending the channel. That's really nice. Hey, thanks, Faustonia. I really appreciate that. Thanks also, Karzar. Karzar claims I'm spinning something. I don't know what I've said during this broadcast that was spin, Karzar. So, respectfully, I disagree that I'm spinning anything. But I appreciate your support. You said, that is not true, Steve. As an attorney, warrants are served in court every day and people taken into custody, including illegal. Stop spinning it. Well, again, I just read you a quote from the Milwaukee County Executive where he said, I mean, I'm not saying it. If you have a problem with if you have a problem with what the Milwaukee County Executive said, for example, you can take it up with the Milwaukee County Executive. So just to repeat, the Milwaukee County Executive said, right here, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley said, well, you can see here, he said, even if you are an undocumented immigrant, we need you to be able to understand that this is a safe space for us. There may be a witness in a crime. They may be a witness in a crime. They may be a victim in a crime. And if they're a witness, for example, we need them to be able to come into this building and feel safe and still be able to talk, to actually be a witness. Judges in some jurisdictions have criticized efforts by Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials, by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents to locate and detain immigrants at local courthouses, saying the practice makes it more difficult to ensure undocumented immigrants will show up for court proceedings in which they are victims, defendants, or witnesses. Now, you might not agree with that point of view, but that point of view is out there in some locations. That's not me spinning anything. Thank you, the Karzar. Thank you, Seize the Day. For being a member, thank you also, PZ Papa Zulu. Again, we will be covering on this channel the funeral of Pope Francis. That does not start, the funeral starts at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. So we will be doing a separate stream starting a bit before then. If you're awake, I hope you can join us for the funeral of Pope Francis. Thank you also, LGM for you, Larry, and PZ Papa Zulu, our members, Lynn Downey, our member, Ann Fitzgerald, our member. And thanks so much to Kamishwari Kate. I very much appreciate that. Thank you. KC says, if the person is afraid to show up for fear of being arrested, couldn't they use a Zoom call? I don't know. You're saying, did this person have the option of using a Zoom call? You know, there's something in the AP article that says something about that, but I'm not really sure. In this article, it said, a sign that remained posted on Dugan's courtroom door Friday advised that if any attorney or other court official knows or believes that a person feels unsafe coming to the courthouse, they should notify the clerk and request an appearance via Zoom. Now, maybe if somebody's in the country illegally, they might not want to request a Zoom and call attention to the fact that they're in the country illegally. I don't know. So I don't know. But, you know, that I'm just throwing out that could be a reason that somebody would not request a Zoom. Also, for all I know, I don't know how the legal advice the person got. Maybe it never happens there usually that immigration's authorities show up to arrest somebody to courthouse. Maybe this person got legal advice saying, no, it's not a concern going to the courthouse. I don't know. I do not know. So I understand your question of like, I would assume if the person thought there was a decent chance they were going to be arrested, that and if they felt that Zoom was a realistic option for them, they would have requested a Zoom. I can't speak to the specifics of whether they did or didn't and why or why not. Oh. Hold on a second here. Hang on a moment here. So it's an interesting question. I don't have specifics to give you on that. Hang on one second here. I'm going to read a few more comments from you guys. The Hawkmaster says another scandal trying to try to cover up the other ones. I mean, look, I'm not going to tell you what to think about this. Some people have different opinions on something like this and about whether, is this something that is being done to send a message, to make a political point? Is it going to be done frequently, or is it more like something done just once in a while? I can't say, so I understand that kind of question. Macro Geek says, what judge could possibly feel justified in doing this? So I can't, if this person did do this, I can't get into their head. Again, something I don't know is, is there some kind of expectation in there that, for example, that immigration authorities are not supposed to come into the court or into the courtroom, for example, and did she feel like if that was violated, that it was justifiable for her to take some sort of action? I don't know. I have no idea. Also, I mean, this person got arrested pretty quickly. I'm going to show you the civil complaint, but she didn't drive the person away in the car. She took the person out a certain door, but the person ended up in a public area inside the courthouse and got taken into custody quite quickly. So, I don't even know if she thought what she did allegedly would help him evade authorities, or did she think, oh, if I take him out this way, he's going to get away? Or did she think, I'm going to take him out this way because, if they want to arrest him in this other area, that's up to them, but I'm not going to let them do it right here. Don't know. She'll have a chance to, defend herself in court. But I don't know the specifics about what she was thinking. And a lot of the context here. Laura C. says, couldn't they wait outside to pick him up? Now, Willie Jean says that the warrant was an administrative warrant, not a judicial one. Now, Willie says administrative warrants are basically hearsay by the agency. Okay, so I don't want to get into that in detail yet because I'm not a legal expert. I did see the New York Times say something about judicial warrant versus administrative warrant, but I'm not going to try to play lawyer here because I'm not one. I will tell you that the New York Times in their reporting today said that where is it here? They say ICE usually uses administrative warrants to apprehend people. Such warrants do not carry the same authority as a warrant issued by a judge. People in their homes do not need to typically to open their doors to a administrative warrant. I don't want to get into that too deeply right now because I'd have to do a bunch of research on it stuff. Maybe one of the articles kind of gets into more detail we can look at. Thank you, Willie Jean. I appreciate that. Will the judge be removed from office? I saw something about that saying that some people were calling for her to be removed, but that I don't have a lot of details right at hand about it. You know what? It's an interesting question. I don't want to. Some of these questions are quite interesting. I don't want to kind of go. I want to kind of just get the basics of the story first. Let's focus on those first. I'll make that be, and then maybe after we can talk about some of those specific questions, which are quite interesting. But I think it might be a little getting ahead of ourselves. Okay. Let me show you something else here about this. U.S. charges Milwaukee judge with obstructing immigration arrest in Trump crackdown. This is from Reuters. There's a little video here, too. I'll show you the video. U.S. officials arrested a Wisconsin judge today and charged her with helping a man in her court briefly evade immigration authorities in an escalating dispute between President Trump's administration and local officials over immigration enforcement. In a criminal complaint, the U.S. Justice Department said Hannah Dugan, a Milwaukee County Circuit judge, hindered the immigration efforts who showed up to arrest the man without a judicial warrant outside her courtroom on April 18th, and that she tried to help him evade arrest by allowing him to exit through a jury door. Agents arrested the man outside the courthouse after he left with his lawyer. Dugan appeared briefly at a federal court in Milwaukee to face charges of obstructing a government proceeding and concealing an individual to prevent arrest, records show. She was released and is scheduled to enter a plea on May 15th. Trump, a Republican, launched a sweeping immigration crackdown after taking office in January, and the Justice Department has directed that federal prosecutors pursue criminal cases against local officials who interfere with the effort. Such resistance was widespread during Trump's first term in office. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General for the Trump administration, said no one, least of all a judge, should obstruct law enforcement operations. The Trump administration has been locked in an escalating confrontation with federal judges, as several federal judges, she is not a federal judge, she's a local judge, several federal judges have issued rulings that limit the Trump administration's aggressive use of presidential power in immigration and other matters. State courts have played a less significant role in that dispute. Let me show you what Kash Patel, the FBI director, had posted earlier today about this. He said earlier today that the FBI arrested Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. We believe, he said, Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. He was arrested outside the courthouse. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot, he said, and he's been in custody since, but the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. Ben Ogden says the law sure is the law. That's our viewer, Ben Ogden. Yes, she was arrested earlier today. I believe this morning. Our viewer, Color Radio, thinks both of the courts have been compromised. All the cases will now have to be reviewed. I've heard nothing about that, but I'm not a legal expert. Ted thinks Kash Patel is doing a great job. By the Sea says, who told the judge the federal agents were waiting outside for him? We're going to look at the criminal complaint in a second. We'll talk about it. Heather D says, do undocumented people often show up for court, or was he doing things, quote, the right way? By the way, a quick thank you to thanks so much to Kristen Gates. I really appreciate your support. Thank you, Kristen. Also, thank you to TPAC 5000, who says, did they need a judge to sign the arrest warrant? So what I can tell you is they had an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant, which I guess is a kind of a warrant that immigration authorities often use. I'm not sure if that's not signed by a judge and what the exact differences are. Maybe I can get you some more of that in a little bit. Thank you also, thank you TPAC 5000. Thank you also Just Me, who says, if you interfere with a cop on the streets chasing someone, you will get arrested. Thank you Just Me for your support. Thank you also DEFCON 2, our member. Mama 457 Rose, our member. Red Squirrel 82, our member. Hybrid Perpetual, our member. Thank you RJS 927, who said the Supreme Court has said the federal government can't make state officials do their bidding. The anti-commandeering doctrine. I am not a legal expert, so I can't speak about that in particular. It's an interesting point you bring up, or an interesting discussion topic. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit. Thank you also so much to Susie Hickson, who thinks I should consider going to law school. I'm sure I would find law school very interesting. I don't really have the time to go to law school right now, but I'm sure it would be very, very interesting. Hey, I want to show you guys real quick. Reuters has a little short video from this article about what happened today. So I want to throw that up there before we look at the criminal complaint. So let me post that on the screen for you. Hang on, I'm putting it up there right now. Let's hope this all works correctly. All right, I'm seeing the video. Good. This is helpful. I'm getting it ready to play for you. We have volume. Yes, we have volume. Okay, here is a video from Reuters that goes with that article about what happened. Oops, there was a video. There it is again. It's back. Let's play this summary video for you.
U.S. officials arrested Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan at the courthouse where she works on Friday and charged her with helping a man evade immigration authorities. In a criminal complaint, the Justice Department said Dugan, a Milwaukee County Circuit Judge, refused to turn over the man after immigration agents showed up to arrest him in her courtroom on April 18th, and that she tried to help the man evade arrest by allowing him to exit through a jury door. Her arrest comes as the Justice Department has directed federal prosecutors to pursue criminal cases against local government officials who interfere with the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. A spokesperson for the FBI could not be immediately reached for comment on Friday. FBI Director Kash Patel, in a now-deleted social media post, said the FBI had arrested Dugan for interfering with the attempted arrest of an illegal alien.
By the way, he originally posted it, and then he deleted it, and then he posted it again. So it has been posted again by him.
She is charged with obstructing a proceeding and concealing an individual to prevent arrest. Dugan was first elected as a county judge in 2016, and before that served as head of the local branch of Catholic Charities, which provides refugee resettlement programs among other services. Her arrest on Friday is the latest escalation of the Trump administration's fight with local government officials over deportations. Trump launched a sweeping immigration crackdown after taking office in January, declaring a national emergency and surging resources in a bid to arrest and deport record numbers of immigrants in the U.S. illegally. U.S. officials arrested.
All right, little summary of what happened. I think we should look at the criminal complaint. That's what I think we should do. We're going to do that. Look at this. Take some more comments from you guys. We got the criminal complaint here. There it is. You can see United States of America versus Hannah C. Dugan. Offense description: obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the U.S., concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. So we're going to look at this in a second here. Troy Goodall thinks when judges break the law and are found guilty, they should be held to a harsher sentence. Jennifer Rochelle says, someone explain to me how the Republican Party is now against our law enforcement and our judges. By the way, thanks to our viewer, Bebop and Rocksteady. You mentioned New Mexico. Maybe we can talk about that after. There was a story in New Mexico about a former judge who, I believe he and his wife were arrested, if I have this right, for some situation where they were housing somebody who was an illegal immigrant. But it wasn't a current judge. I don't really want to get too into that story. If I can give you a 2-sentence summary, I will. But just to be clear, that was not an acting judge. Where is the... Yes, hold on a second. Where is it here? I should be able to get this for you. Oh, there's a press release about it, actually. Justice Department press release. Nancy Ann Cano and Jose Luis Cano were arrested yesterday for evidence tampering offenses related to a federal investigation and prosecution against Christian Ortega Lopez, a Venezuelan national residing unlawfully in the U.S., blah, 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 blah. The Justice Department said a former judge and his wife engaged in evidence tampering on behalf of a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member. Anyways, maybe we can look at this later. It's a different story. So I don't want to, but that's not an acting judge. Okay? So anyways, maybe we can look at that later. But I don't want to get too off topic here. But thanks for mentioning it. I want to look at the court, the criminal complaint. Hold on one second. And just to mention that, yeah, I'm seeing that man in that case described as a former New Mexico judge. I don't know if he was still working as a judge somewhere, but all these different articles, including Fox News, describe him as a former New Mexico judge. Anyways. He resigned from his position in March, Fox News said. I don't know, maybe he resigned due to this. Anyways, that's a different, all right. I don't want to get too, we're going to end up not talking about the thing we're talking about if we start talking about that a lot. So maybe we can go back to that. As you hear in press briefings, circle back to it. Maybe we can circle back to the New Mexico story. But I don't want to, we're going to end up getting away from the main thing. So. The War says he was resigned before he arrested. I don't know. I don't know the specifics on that. So we can come back to it later. But the problem is that we will get way off topic if we start going down this road. Yeah, we're losing focus, as Rob from HD says. Where's my pen? I don't even have my pen, so I can't even write it down to circle back to it. Hold on, I'm getting my pen. Okay. Let's go to, by the way, thank you, PZ Papa Zulu. Yeah, we'll go back to that. We'll go back to that later in the stream. We will return to it. Thank you, PZ Papa Zulu. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jennifer Rochelle, for being a member. And we got to look at the criminal complaint. Thanks also Bonzilla the Inevitable for your support on Twitch. Thanks Drogon915 for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks Sayunik for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks Quake Clouds for subscribing on Twitch. And thanks so much to our moderators. We have moderating Big Ball of Yarn, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah Surly Dev over there on Twitch, Kay Lowry Body over on Facebook moderating. Margaret Riley, thank you. Paul Anderson, thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. And BZ over on YouTube. Beth Mythical on YouTube. One Way Street. Thank you. All right. Here we go. Criminal complaint time. Here it is. Let's look at the criminal complaint against we're talking about the judge that the stream is about. The Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Milwaukee County Judge in Wisconsin. This is the criminal complaint. So the person says, I have an FBI special agent. Okay. I'm assigned to a white-collar crime squad. Blah, 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 blah. I make this affidavit in support of a criminal complaint charging Hannah C. Dugan, who's a judge, with obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the United States and concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. Background. Okay. So this is the document filed by an FBI special agent. I am aware of a review from public records that on March 18th, Eduardo Flores Ruiz was charged in Milwaukee County with battery, domestic abuse, infliction of physical pain or injury. Those charges came out of a fight that he got into with his roommate, apparently, from the reporting I've seen. And then as part of those charges, I believe it's alleged that he hit a woman who tried to break it up and maybe might have elbowed somebody else or something like that. Anyways, that's the general idea, is that it came out of a fight he got into with his roommate. Agents from DHS, ICE, and enforcement and removal operations identified Flores Ruiz as an individual who was not lawfully in the U.S. He is a native and citizen of Mexico. He had been issued an order of expedited removal in 2013, and he was removed to Mexico in 2013. And he came back into the country, they say, without permission. Okay? Okay. On or about April 17th, 2025, about a week ago, an authorized immigration official found probable cause to believe Flores Ruiz was removable from the U.S. and issued a warrant. I guess this is an administrative warrant for his arrest. Okay. Then immigration authorities were aware that on April 18th, Flores Ruiz was scheduled to attend a hearing in his criminal case. That hearing was set to take place in courtroom 615 in front of the Judge Hannah Dugan. Now, his criminal case was not his immigration case. That's just a case involving alleged battery from a fight he got into. So, based on all the above info, immigration authorities went to the courthouse with the immigration arrest warrant for Flores Ruiz in hand for the purpose of executing the warrant. So they went to the courthouse to take him into the custody to begin deportation proceedings on him, basically. And because they heard that he was going to be at that courthouse defending himself on a different charge, not an immigration charge, on this charge coming out of a fight he got into. Charges coming out of a fight he got into, allegedly. Okay, now the FBI agent here says, I am aware that law enforcement routinely executes warrants and makes arrests in the public areas of buildings such as the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The reasons for this include not only the fact that law enforcement knows the location at which the wanted individual should be located at, but also the fact that the wanted individual would have entered through a security checkpoint and thus is unarmed, minimizing the risk of injury to law enforcement, the public, and the wanted individual. As such, we developed a plan to arrest, the authorities developed a plan to arrest Flores Ruiz in a public area outside of the courtroom following his scheduled criminal court appearance. Now, just to be clear, I don't know how common that is there. I don't know if that is something that happens all the time there, or if that's something where, like, the judges do not like and don't want immigration authorities showing up at the courthouse when people appear for other business at the court. Just to be clear. Anyways, their plan was to arrest him right outside the courthouse. No, not right outside the courtroom, inside the courthouse, right after his proceeding. That was their plan. The FBI agent says, I'm aware that 2 prior arrests in public areas of the Milwaukee County Courthouse complex of individuals who were not lawfully present in the United States had received public attention. Both of those arrests involved individuals who had been charged with criminal offenses but who were not in custody and appearing for scheduled hearings in their criminal cases. Pursuant to its policies, which had been made known to courthouse officials, immigration authorities were focusing its resources on apprehending charged defendants making appearances in criminal cases. Fine. They say they were not arresting victims, witnesses, or individuals appearing for matters in family or civil court. Okay, arrival of arrest teams at the courthouse and notification of attended arrest. 6 law enforcement officers, I guess, plan to take part in this arrest on April 18th. Okay, she talks about the 6 people. They were dressed in plain clothes and intended to effectuate the arrest in as low-key and as safe a manner as possible. Around 8 a.m. on April 18th, a couple of the officers showed up, presented identification to a security guard, and explained they were there to make an arrest. Okay, they showed their credentials, their badges. The security guard there stated they needed to speak with their supervisor. So, I mean, clearly it's not like totally routine, because the security guard, when they saw they showed up and said that we're going to make an arrest today, said they need to talk to the supervisor. Okay. Staff sergeant with the sheriff's office was contacted and spoke to the deportation officer. They discussed the details of the planned arrest. Okay. The sergeant asked that any arrest wait until after the completion of the scheduled hearing before Judge Dugan. As this was standard practice, the officers agreed. Then they were allowed to proceed unescorted to the public hallway outside of the courtroom. Fine. The other members of the arrest team were already present in the public hallway outside the courtroom when those two officers arrived. Okay. FBI agents had advised the courtroom deputy for that courtroom that law enforcement was there to arrest Flores Ruiz, who was about to have a hearing inside the courtroom for a criminal case. Okay, fine. They agreed the arrest would take place after Flores Ruiz's court appearance. The agents then left the courtroom. So, I guess they went in the courtroom. The other members of the arrest team were already present. FBI agents A and B had advised. It looks like FBI agents A and B were maybe in the courtroom and then left the courtroom. Okay. Okay. The courtroom deputy had opened the doors to the courtroom at approximately 8:15 a.m. Okay, fine. Fine. The courtroom deputy explained that at around 8:15 a.m., FBI agents advised that they were working with ICE and were planning to arrest Flores Ruiz. The courtroom deputy asked that the agents wait outside and arrest Flores Ruiz after the hearing. The agents agreed and left the courtroom. Okay. The courtroom deputy told case agents that after an ICE arrest in the courthouse earlier that month, a shift sergeant had asked bailiffs to alert a supervisor at the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office if ICE agents were in the building. Okay, they notified a shift sergeant. Arrest team members reported that while waiting outside of the courtroom, a woman approached and took photos of the arrest team members. Okay? The individual taking photographs of the agents has been identified as by multiple witnesses as an attorney employed by the State of Wisconsin Public Defender's Office. Flores Ruiz arrived at 8:43 a.m., around 8:43 a.m. for his hearing in the courthouse. Then he goes into the courtroom. So Flores Ruiz, he's in the country illegally. There's this federal immigration authorities have made this plan saying we know he's going to be in the courtroom at this time on this morning for a court hearing about these charges he's facing, not immigration charges, other charges. So we're going to show up to the courthouse. We're going to wait outside the courtroom and we're going to arrest him right after his hearing. That's the plan. Okay. Judge Dugan learns of ICE's presence and confronts members of the arrest team. Witnesses have described Judge Dugan's response to learning of ICE's presence right outside her courtroom during the hearing. For example, the courtroom deputy indicated that when Flores Ruiz arrived, Judge Dugan was already on the bench and conducting proceedings unrelated to the Flores Ruiz matter. The courtroom deputy observed Attorney A, the individual who had photographed the immigration agents, enter and approach Judge Dugan's clerk. Attorney A stated that there appeared to be ICE agents in the hallway. Attorney A told the clerk where the agents were seated and what they were wearing. Okay. The courtroom deputy reported that the clerk then got up and talked with Judge Dugan. Judge Dugan became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, and entered chambers. At the time, Flores Ruiz was seated in the gallery of the courtroom. Why the judge became so angry when she found out that ICE agents were waiting outside her courtroom to arrest this person who had a hearing coming up in her courtroom. I don't know that. I don't know why she was so angry. I don't know if it says it in the rest of this document, but she got angry. Another individual who was in the courtroom said there were approximately 8 criminal cases, including Flores Ruiz's case, scheduled for pretrial hearings that morning. Attorney B was aware that victims from Flores Ruiz's criminal case were in court. Attorney B heard someone announce ICE is here. Shortly thereafter, Attorney B heard Judge Dugan say they were going to call the chief judge before leaving the courtroom. Okay, members of the arrest team reported the following events after Judge Dugan learned of their presence outside the courtroom and left the bench. Judge Dugan and Judge A, who were both wearing judicial robes, approached members of the arrest team in the public hallway outside the courtroom. Witnesses uniformly repeated that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Judge Dugan arrested Deportation Officer A and asked if Deportation Officer A was present for a court appearance. When Deportation Officer A responded no, Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A would need to leave the courthouse. Deportation Officer A stated that Deportation Officer A was there to effectuate an arrest. Judge Dugan asked if Deportation Officer A had a judicial warrant. And Deportation Officer A responded, no, I have an administrative warrant. Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A needed a judicial warrant. Deportation Officer A told Judge Dugan that Deportation Officer A was in a public space and had a valid immigration warrant. Judge Dugan asked to see the administrative warrant, and Deportation Officer A offered to show it to her. Judge Dugan then demanded that Deportation Officer A speak with the chief judge. Judge Dugan then had a similar interaction with FBI Agent B and CBP Officer A. After finding out that they were not present for a court appearance and that they were with ICE, Judge Dugan ordered them to report to the chief judge's office. So clearly, Judge Dugan did not think they were supposed to be there in the hallway waiting for somebody who was having a court appearance to come out so they could arrest them. Now, I don't know the background here, but you can see here that Judge Dugan did not think they were supposed to be there, and she actually told one of them to leave. It just says there, according to this affidavit from an FBI agent. Judge A then escorted members of the arrest team away from the courtroom, down the hall, and through a set of double doors toward the reception area for the chief judge's office. Remember, the Judge Dugan has just told them, you got to talk to the chief judge. So they go down the hall to talk to the chief judge. DEA Agent B, who was not recognized by Judge Dugan and Judge A as being part of the arrest team, remained behind outside of courtroom 615. Okay. The courtroom deputy reported observing a portion of the above described events in the hallway. According to the courtroom deputy, shortly after Judge Dugan was advised of ICE's presence outside her courtroom, the courtroom deputy left the courtroom to look for an unrelated defendant. The courtroom deputy saw Judge Dugan in her robe in the public hallway outside the courtroom, telling one of the federal agents he needed to go talk to the chief judge. Judge Dugan appeared visibly angry and was walking quickly. As soon as the agent entered the chief judge's vestibule area, the courtroom deputy saw Judge Dugan walk south down the hallway and enter a locked door near her courtroom. Okay. The FBI agent in this affidavit says, I am familiar with the floor plan of the 6th floor of the courthouse, and I believe the door that Judge Dugan entered led to a non-public hallway from which she could access her courtroom and chambers. Okay. DEA Agent B, who was still in the hallway outside the courtroom because he was not recognized as a law enforcement agent there for the immigration arrest, reported that Judge Dugan walked around the hallway and appeared to be looking for additional agents before she returned to her courtroom. Okay. Once inside the office of the chief judge, Deportation Officer A showed Chief Judge, Judge A, his credentials and the administrative warrant. Judge A asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant. I guess Judge A is different than the chief judge. All right. Judge A asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant and asked whether the chief judge was available. The clerk advised the chief judge was not in the building, but later advised he was on the phone. At that point, Judge A left, and Deportation Officer A went inside a more private area of the chief judge's office to speak with him on the phone. During the conversation, the chief judge said he was working on a policy which would dictate locations within the courthouse where ICE could safely conduct enforcement actions. The chief judge emphasized that such actions should not take place in courtrooms or other private locations within the building. Deportation Officer A asked about whether enforcement actions could take place in the hallway. The chief judge indicated that hallways are public areas. When the chief judge expressed interest in talking to the ICE ERO management about this policy, Deportation Officer A provided him with contact information for ICE ERO's Assistant Field Office Director. Okay. While deportation officer A was speaking with the chief judge, DEA agent A, CBP officer A, and FBI agents A and B waited in the vestibule area outside the chief judge's office. DEA agent A departed the area after a short while. Judge Dugan's courtroom deputy then approached the remaining arrest team members and said the courtroom deputy was not the one who had notified Judge Dugan about their arrest plans. The courtroom deputy also made a comment about Judge Dugan pushing Flores Ruiz's case through, which the arrest team interpreted to mean that Judge Dugan was attempting to expedite Flores Ruiz's hearing. Judge Dugan escorts Flores Ruiz through a jury door to avoid his arrest. Again, this is the allegation. This is the meat of the allegation here. Multiple witnesses have described their observations after Judge Dugan returned to her courtroom after directing members of the arrest team to the chief judge's office. For example, the courtroom deputy recalled that upon the courtroom deputy's return to the courtroom, defense counsel for Flores Ruiz was talking to the clerk, and Flores Ruiz was sitting in the jury box rather than in the gallery. The courtroom deputy believed that counsel and the clerk were having an off-the-record conversation to pick the next court date. Defense counsel and Flores Ruiz then walked toward each other and toward the public courtroom exit. The courtroom deputy then saw Judge Dugan get up and heard Judge Dugan say something like, "Wait, come with me." Remember, Judge Dugan had seen immigration authorities outside her courtroom and heard that they were there to arrest this person that had a hearing in her courtroom, this person who was in the country illegally. So he was, I guess, according to this witness, going to go outside that door, the door, I guess the regular door, and the witness said that the courtroom deputy said she saw Judge Dugan say, "Wait, come with me." Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his lawyer, his counsel, out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. These events were unusual for two reasons. First, the courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusively for the jury's use. Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies used the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. Attorney B similarly explained, Judge Dugan had forcefully motioned for Flores Ruiz's attorney in a male she did not know to approach. Flores Ruiz's attorney appeared to be confused by the judge's gesture but complied with her directive. Judge Dugan commanded the Flores Ruiz's attorney and the male leave through a back door of the courtroom. Okay, let's see here. Later that morning, Attorney B realized that Flores Ruiz's case had never been called and asked the court about it. Attorney B learned that Flores Ruiz's case had been adjourned. This happened without Attorney B's knowledge or participation. Even though Attorney B was present in court to handle Flores Ruiz's case on behalf of the state. And even though victims were present in the courtroom. That's interesting. Okay, let's see here. Another witness observed Judge Dugan gesture towards Flores Ruiz and perhaps his interpreter. The woman was probably Flores Ruiz's attorney. The witness said Judge Dugan then exited through the jury door with Flores Ruiz and the Hispanic woman who I think it was his attorney. Okay, that witness was concerned because Flores Ruiz's case had not yet been called, and the victims for that case were waiting for the proceeding to happen. Okay. And then another witness saw Judge Dugan forcefully direct two individuals, a man and woman, to leave through the jury door. It's all just different witnesses reporting on what happened. The same thing. Ruiz makes it out of the courthouse and is arrested after the foot chase. So I know this is kind of detailed, but I think it's interesting. This is the affidavit. This is the criminal complaint where the FBI lays out the facts it knows. So before we read through this last part, what we've heard happened is this person, Flores Ruiz, who is an undocumented immigrant, he is in the country illegally, and he had been deported, I believe, in 2013, but then got back in the country. he was facing charges in Milwaukee County, including battery charges, from what I have read, related to a fight he got in with a roommate. He was supposed to have a court hearing on April 18th with Judge Dugan in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Before his hearing, the judge found out that immigration authorities were waiting outside the courtroom to arrest Flores Ruiz right after his court hearing. She, for whatever reason, got quite upset about that. According to the document, which talks about witnesses saying this, she went out, talked to the immigration authorities, who she recognized as such, the one she figured out were there. She talked to them. She asked one of them to leave, and she said that they needed to go talk to the chief judge, and she was not happy that they were there. Then, according to the document, according to the witnesses they talked to, she went back inside the courthouse, and before Flores Ruiz's case was ever, before his hearing in the court ever even happened, she directed him and I guess his attorney to leave through some kind of jury door. So apparently, according to this document, his hearing never happened, and she told him to leave through a jury door with his attorney. Okay. Ruiz makes it out of the courthouse and is arrested after a foot chase. After leaving the chief judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway. So this is a number of the enforcement agents were down the hall trying to talk to the chief judge, because that's where Judge Dugan had sent them. After leaving the chief judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway, DEA Agent A reported that Flores Ruiz and his attorney were in the public hallway. So this is kind of confusing. So so I don't know if, so just to be clear here, the judge tells Ruiz to go out this back door. But after Flores Ruiz and I guess his attorney go out the back door, they still end up in a public hallway outside the courtroom. Because you can see it says here, after leaving the chief judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway, DEA Agent A reported that Flores Ruiz and his attorney were in the public hallway. So anyways, it's a little confusing here. I don't know if the judge was thinking, well, maybe if I let them out now, they can walk out while the law enforcement is still talking to the chief judge. I don't know. But just to be clear, the law enforcement agents encountered Flores Ruiz in the public hallway. Okay, in the courthouse, on the 6th floor. DEA Agent B also observed Flores Ruiz and his attorney in the hallway near the courtroom and noted that Flores Ruiz was looking around the hallway. From different vantage points, both agents observed Flores Ruiz and his lawyer walk briskly toward the elevator bank on the south end of the 6th floor. She says those elevators are not the closest elevators to the courtroom, and therefore it appears that Flores Ruiz and his counsel elected not to use the closest elevator to courtroom 615. DEA Agent A followed Flores Ruiz and his attorney toward the south elevator bank. At approximately 8:50 a.m., the DEA Agent A alerted other members of the arrest team that DEA Agent A was on the elevator with Flores Ruiz. While on the elevator, Flores Ruiz and his attorney spoke to each other in Spanish, which DEA Agent A did not understand. They exited the elevator on one of the bottom floors of the courthouse and used the 9th Street public entrance exit to leave the building. So just to be clear, he did not, if he was trying to escape, he did not get very far, because literally a DEA agent saw him in the public hallway outside the courtroom and got into the elevator with him. Okay, so they take the elevator down, and then having received the above reference information from DEA Agent A, who was in the elevator with him, with Flores Ruiz, other members of the arrest team scrambled to locate Flores Ruiz and arrest him. DEA Agent B and FBI Agents A and B took another elevator down to one of the bottom floors of the courthouse and quickly exited the building onto 9th Street. After DEA Agent A notified the team that Flores Ruiz was in the front of the courthouse near the flagpole, the agents ran toward the front of the courthouse. An FBI agent and DEA agent, the DEA agent who was in the elevator, approached Flores Ruiz and identified themselves as law enforcement. Flores Ruiz then turned around and sprinted down the street. A foot chase ensued. The agents pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse and ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street and 10th Street. Flores Ruiz was handcuffed and detained. Around 9:05 a.m., or approximately 22 minutes after the arrest team first spotted him on the 6th floor of the courthouse. They spotted him at going into the court, right? Is that when they first spotted him? I think around 8:45. Let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry. They spotted him after he had left the courtroom and he was in the hallway. That was like 8:45, I guess. Sounds like, because it says here at 8:50, DEA agent A was in the elevator with him. Okay, anyways, around 9:05 a.m. or approximately 22 minutes after the arrest team first spotted Flores Ruiz on the 6th floor of the courthouse. Maybe when he first showed up, but just you can see, anyways, this took a few minutes for this all to play out, basically. FBI agent A communicated to the surveillance team that Flores Ruiz had been arrested. Okay. Conclusion, based on the above, I have probable cause to believe that the judge violated two laws and should be charged with obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency of the United States and concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. So, again, I know that's a lot of detail and a lot to go through. But first of all, it's interesting. But second of all, like, if you want to know the facts about what happened, or at least this is, just to be clear, this is the prosecutor version of what happened. This is an FBI agent's version of what happened in the criminal complaint. Now, we have not heard from the other side. We have not heard Judge Dugan's side of this that she can make in court with her legal team. But at least you get an idea of the specifics of this, of some of the alleged specifics from this. So, it's interesting. It's, on the one hand, there is evidence in here which makes it look like the judge was trying to prevent these agents from taking the person in question into custody. Specifically, this document makes it sound like she sent the agents down the hallway, and then right after that, before even holding the hearing for the person in question, the immigrant that he was supposed to have, without even holding the hearing, she told him to go out a jury door, a special door, which makes it seem like maybe she was trying to allow him to leave the courthouse without getting arrested there. Maybe, I don't know for sure. I'm just saying that's what it kind of seems like from what is presented here. But he did not get very far, and indeed, some agents actually saw him in the hallway outside the courtroom. She didn't put him in a car and take him miles away. She took him out a back door, but he ended up just in a public hallway of the courthouse. And indeed, one of the arresting agents ended up getting on the elevator with him and riding the elevator down to the ground with him, where he was then arrested after they confronted him, and then he ran away after they confronted him, and then they chased him down, the agents. Okay. Also, it's interesting, very interesting here from this affidavit, that when the judge heard that these agents were sitting outside her courtroom or standing outside her courtroom waiting to arrest this person after his court hearing with her, she got quite upset about that, according to the document, and went outside the courtroom, told one of them they needed to leave, told the agents that they needed to go talk to the chief judge. So I would certainly be very interested to know what the judge's side of this was. Why was she so upset? Had there been an ongoing issue between immigration agents and judges in this courthouse? Did the judge think that they were not supposed to be there? Is this something that had been talked about before? I have no idea. If the judge was trying to keep the person from getting arrested? Was she trying to keep them from getting arrested ever? Or was her big problem like, look, they should not be arresting him outside the courthouse after a proceeding. If they want to arrest him on another day in a different way, fine. Again, I don't know what her mindset is. So I'm just pointing out some of the unknowns here about this. But it's interesting that she was so upset when she heard they were outside the courtroom. She was so upset that she went out there before the hearing to talk to them. So it's you know what I'm going to do? I should have done this before. I will post. There's a link I found online to the document. Let's see here. Right here. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, there's a bunch of, did they publish? Hold on one sec here. Hold on. Let's see here. Where is, yeah, a bunch of different news outlets have posted the criminal complaint too. So I'll give you a link to one of those. I'll just pick one and throw it in the chat and you can read it. Here. All right, I just posted the link. You can read the whole thing yourself. You can read it over if you want. All right, I want to take some comments from you guys, but I thought that was some interesting detail there. Where is... Okay, so sorry for a lot of reading, but at least we got it out there, what they talked about. All right, hey, let me take some comments and questions. Also, hold on a second here. Hold on a moment here. Quick thanks to, why is this all weird? Thanks to Bent Fork 2000 for your support, who says, ever see a judge aid an American citizen criminal? That's what Bent Fork 2000 said. Thank you also to, sorry, this is acting weird here. Mitchell Pilot 909. Thank you, Mitchell Pilot, for your support. Thank you, Mama 457 Rose. Thank you, I'm Yankee GG, who says, losing your job to virtue signal. Thank you, Civlap, for your support. Civlap thinks Judge Dugan picked the wrong hill to plant her flag. If she had done the same for someone accused of jaywalking, the public may be more on her side. Oh, by the way, hold on a second here. By the way, I see some reporting here that a viewer just mentioned this to me. Thank you, Bebop and Rocksteady. Jeffrey Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre has died by suicide, her family says. I'm probably pronouncing her last name wrong, so I want to mention this. Her family said she died by suicide, says NBC News. In a statement to NBC News, her family said it was with utterly broken hearts that we announced that Virginia has passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking. NBC News describes her as one of the most prominent survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse. There is a well-known photo of her with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, which I think BNO News posted it, which I'll post a link to in the chat. Condolences to her family. I just posted the link to the BNO post with the picture of her that you may have seen from years ago. Was she in a crash lately? That I don't know. Yeah, so the New York Post said weeks earlier she had said she had days to live following a collision with a bus. It's a sad story. Yeah, the New York Post said she again weeks after she made headlines for saying she had days to live following a collision with a bus. And the just to give you a little update on that, let's see here. It says, yeah, she had posted on Instagram. I think is this what it is? Yeah, she had posted on Instagram on March 30th that she was in the hospital after she had an accident where her car hit a bus. And she had kidney renal failure and said they had given her 4 days to live. Also, People magazine says while she was at the hospital, she came forward with allegations of abuse against her husband of 22 years. Anyways, it's a different story, but condolences to her family. That news breaking during this stream. Yeah, no, the thing she posted on Instagram, the thing I said she posted on Instagram. People magazine had a story about it talking about it. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that. I know it's a bit off topic, but that had happened while we were on the air. Flora said that she had kids. This is so sad. Okay, let me look at a couple things here. Yeah, so B&O News posted the statement from Virginia Giuffre's family. You can see it says she lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking. The light of her life were her children, Christian, Noah, and Emily. They said, in the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. We know she is with the angels. Terrible. Paula Thompson said, it is very difficult to go through trauma the most of your life. Okay, so we had gone through the criminal complaint. In this case, where a Wisconsin judge, a Milwaukee judge, was arrested by the FBI today, charged with obstructing immigrant arrest. You see the Washington Post headline there. So I'd like to take a few more comments about this, and also maybe talk about a couple of the issues you guys had brought up about this. But I do want to remind you that we don't know what her side of the story is going to be in this. I've seen some legal experts say that this is a rare occurrence, that this type of arrest would be made by federal authorities of a local judge for something like this. So whatever you think about it, it does not seem to be that common of a thing. Jack Davidson says, what is so difficult? No one is above the law. Raymond Cheek says there were victims sitting in the courtroom. Again, he was charged with battery, stemming from a fight he had gotten into with a roommate, apparently. Douthis, our viewer, thinks rare such an arrest would be made, much less blasted to the press by the director of the FBI. The Attorney General was publicizing it today as well. Is part of this trying to send a message to other local officials who might consider doing, actions which get in the way of some sort of arrest of an immigrant who's in the country illegally? By the way, thank you to Valor2 for subscribing on Twitch, Bad Toastery for your support, and Ivory John for subscribing on Twitch, Bonzilla the Inevitable. Thank you for your support on Twitch. Also, thank you to John DFW for your support. Stickler for Change thinks the administration is trying to deflect from the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case. Cody's Rocks thinks the administration was loud about it to spread fear. Fall in line or your life is over. Craig P. thinks it was announced in an effort to send a message to other judges and officials. Oh, I haven't even done this yet. I should show you what a couple of local politicians said. So Tammy Baldwin, who is a senator, a Democratic senator from Wisconsin, she said, in the United States, we have a system of checks and balances and separations of power for damn good reasons. The president's administration arresting a sitting judge is a gravely serious and drastic move, and it threatens to breach those very separations of power. Make no mistake, we do not have kings in this country, and we are a democracy governed by laws that everyone must abide by relentlessly attacking the judicial system, flouting court orders, and arresting a sitting judge. This president is putting those basic democratic values that Wisconsinites hold dear on the line. While details of this exact case remain minimal, she said, this action fits into the deeply concerning pattern of this president's lawless behavior and undermining courts and Congress's checks on his power. That's what Senator Tammy Baldwin said. And the mayor of Milwaukee, Cavalier Johnson, said, I am awaiting more detail on the facts of the case, so I am not commenting on what the judge did or didn't do. I will say I wish the Trump administration would focus less on settling scores with their perceived political enemies and focus their attention on fixing the economy that they've broken or remedying the mistakes they have made as they slash through important federal programs. This overly dramatic arrest of a judge at the county courthouse adds to a big problem created by the federal approach to immigration enforcement. What they have done is drive away people from participating in legitimate courthouse activities. These may be victims or witnesses, and they are not going to take part in court cases if they fear being swept up in immigration enforcement. So he's arguing that if you have people in the country illegally who are going to the courthouse for an illegal proceeding, whatever their purpose is there, whether they're a witness or a victim or somebody charged, he's saying that doing this kind of thing at the courthouse could end up causing these people not to participate in the legal system. He believes our community is safer when witnesses and victims willingly appear for court. That's from Mayor Cavalier Johnson. By the way, hey, that is super generous of you, Sean TV. That's very, very nice of you. I really appreciate your support. Sean TV, thanks for all your support. Very kind of you. Also, thanks to our member, Jesse James. Thanks also, Civil Defense. I appreciate it. Console says illegal is illegal. Someone should let the mayor know. Mr. Bigley Uncredible thinks it's safer when criminals get deported, surely. Nubbed says, welcome to the current administration. Ruled by fear, not law. You're not supposed to make arrests outside courthouses because it makes criminals more likely to escape. To try to escape, you're saying. Are you saying rather than show up for their court hearing, Nubbud? If I'm reading that correctly? Valor says, why doesn't Senator Baldwin await more details so she can make a comment that is not subject to equivocation? Nick Nembus says, blaming Trump for a judge trying to hide people, LMAO. They shouldn't be here anyways to end up at court endangering people. Oh, so I'm not going to read this whole article, but just some extra stuff. We haven't looked at this Washington Post article about this yet. You can see that the judge's attorney said, Miss Dugan wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. It was not made in the interest of public safety. Another attorney representing the judge said she will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. The Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, a Democrat, described the case against the judge as a large performative showing of law enforcement officials and accused the Trump administration of trying to instill fear and hostility across our community. But Tyler August, the Republican majority leader of the Wisconsin State Assembly, praised the FBI in a statement and said Republicans in his chamber would act decisively if these serious allegations are confirmed. Lawmakers in Wisconsin have the power to remove state judges. Although I don't know what the vote would have to be and whether they have enough votes to remove her. So just quickly Googling it, according to Ballotpedia, does it have it here? The Republican Party controls both chambers of the state legislature. According to the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal, they reported that there could be an impeachment proceeding, and a simple majority must vote for it at the state assembly. If they do, then the state Senate takes it up. But 2/3 of state senators present must vote to convict. I don't know what the state Senate balance is in Wisconsin. Also, a judge could be recalled. There's something, a judge can be removed by address. Anyways. I am looking here at an article from late 2024 from the Wisconsin Independent saying that in the state Senate, Democrats, it's 18 Republicans to 15 Democrats. In the House, it's in the state assembly, it looks like, if I'm reading this right, the House and the Republicans have 54-45 majority. So if that article is correct, the Republicans do not hold 2/3 of the state seats in either the House. No, they don't own it. In the Senate, it's 18-15. And you would need 2/3 to impeach her, to successfully convict her on impeachment. So I don't know that, but maybe there's some other way they can do it. I'm not a Wisconsin legislature expert. But impeachment would require some Democratic votes, it seems. All right, hold on a minute here. Hang on. Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Fox News, the judge put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. Bondi also highlighted the arrest on obstruction charges Thursday of a former magistrate judge in New Mexico who resigned after being accused of harboring in his home an alleged member of the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang. Okay, so that person ended up resigning after being accused. There were some questions about this earlier. I wasn't sure about this earlier. Justice Department officials have directed federal prosecutors nationwide to investigate and potentially charge state and local officials who impede the president's immigration crackdown. The Trump administration has now openly clashed with state and federal judges who have sought to restrain some of the government's most aggressive deportation and enforcement efforts. Just to be clear, though, there's an action like this, which is, according to the government, an attempt to hinder the administration by like helping somebody escape. But there's also a judge just issuing a ruling which says, no, Trump administration, you can't do this because that's illegal. Those are two very different things. I'm not aware that the Justice Department has directed anyone to charge a judge for issuing a ruling. And as we mentioned before, judges in some jurisdictions have criticized efforts by immigration and customs enforcement agents to locate and detain immigrants at local courthouses, saying the practice makes it more difficult to ensure undocumented immigrants will show up for court proceedings in which they are victims, defendants, or witnesses. But immigration authorities say courthouses provide a unique setting where they can be certain their targets are scheduled to show up at a specific time and date and will have already undergone security screening. Milwaukee's ICE office, which has made other arrests at Dugan's courthouse this year, has adopted a policy to detain only undocumented immigrants who are due in court for alleged crimes, only undocumented immigrants who are due in court for alleged crimes, and not to pursue those who may be in court as witnesses or victims, according to the affidavit, which we read to you. The Assistant Department of Homeland Security said the judge's actions to shield an accused violent criminal, illegal alien from justice is shocking and shameful. Just a reminder that, as we said before, during the Trump's first term, the Justice Department charged a judge and court officer in Massachusetts with helping an undocumented immigrant escape from a courthouse in Newton. Prosecutors said then that as ICE agents arrived to detain the man, Judge Shelley M. Richmond Joseph directed him to leave through the courthouse basement, where he was let out a back door as agents waited for him in the lobby. The federal charges were dropped in 2022 as part of an agreement that required the judge to refer herself to the Massachusetts Commission on Judicial Conduct, the body in charge of judicial discipline in the state. Wow. So, what's going to happen with her case? I have no idea what's going to happen with her case. I don't know. These are both felonies from my understanding. These are both felony charges. I have no idea how likely she is to get convicted or not, or to get off. By the way, I didn't even look at this yet on air, but the Justice Department did release also a press release today about the New Mexico former judge being arrested and the Wisconsin judge being arrested. You can see it says Justice Department announces 2 cases involving judicial misconduct and obstruction of law enforcement. And regarding this one, it says, where is it here? Judge Dugan is charged with obstruction of proceedings before a department or agency of the U.S., which carries a maximum penalty of 2 to 5 years in prison, and concealing a person to prevent arrest, which carries a maximum penalty of 1 year in prison. I don't know what sentencing recommendations would be for someone like her. I haven't heard she has any criminal record. Oh, all right. We'll do a poll. I sort of don't like this poll, though, because I feel like the poll ends up being a popularity contest. You know, we're going to do a poll. The poll is, will she be convicted of at least one of the charges or not? She's charged with 2 things. Will the judge be convicted of at least one charge? I don't know. All right, I'm posting that right now, and then we'll see what you guys think. I don't necessarily think it's popularity contest because your view on her or in the case might be different, might be, I don't know if different's the right word, but you might not like what she did, but still think she won't be convicted and vice versa. All right, let me just post this on Facebook. Then I'll show you what you guys said. I'll show you what you guys said in the poll. Okay, let's look at what you guys said. Where is the headline here? Here. Okay, first on YouTube, the question is, do you think Judge Dugan, who is pictured there, will get convicted on at least one of the two charges that she now faces? Oopsie, I pressed the wrong button. Wrong button pressed. Wrong button pressed. What did I do here? There's like an extra thing on the screen. Gotta get rid of that. Oh my gosh, everything's falling apart. There, I did it. Let's do this the right way, huh? Let's do this the right way. Here we go. Trying to just show you what people said on YouTube. Here it is. Over on YouTube, we have 70% of the people voting think she will be convicted of at least one charge. On Facebook, 60% say no. Only 40% on Facebook say she will be convicted of at least one charge. And then on Twitch, we have 57% on Twitch said she will be convicted of at least one charge. Thanks to PZ Papa Zulu, says we're a country of laws, one set of laws for everyone. You don't get to pick and choose which laws you follow. Like scriptures. You can't choose which to follow. Hey, thanks PZ Papa Zulu for your support. TJ Adams thinks it depends on what kind of judge she goes in front of. Sean TV says you should do a poll on whether it even makes it to trial. You know, well, I guess if you don't think it's going to make it to trial, that would be a no vote. That's a whole other question, though, Sean. Bruce thinks she should get convicted of at least one crime. Our viewer, Bruce Davenport. Sensuit says if you break the law, you should be arrested. It doesn't matter if you are a judge. Distant Galaxy says everything is falling apart, including the country. By the way, shout out to our moderators over there on YouTube. I'm going to wrap up the poll too. I appreciate you voting in the poll. Oopsie. Shout out to our moderators. Beth Mythical. Thanks for moderating over there on YouTube. Oops, what do we do here? Linda Bell, Glary, Misha on X. On Twitch, Sarah. Facebook, Kay Lowry Body. Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson. So, hey, something else I want to mention because you guys brought it up earlier, and I did want to mention, it's not the exact case that's the topic of the stream, but I did say I was going to talk a little more about the New Mexico case. Involving a different judge. So let's just talk about that for a couple minutes because I guess you could argue it's related. I don't know if it's related, but it's similar. I mean, look, the Justice Department thinks it's some sort of related in some way because they have this press release today about both cases. This is a press release from today about both of these cases. Justice Department announces 2 cases involving judicial misconduct and obstruction of law enforcement. Now, the New Mexico case, it says here, Nancy Ann Cano and Jose Luis Cano were arrested yesterday for evidence tampering and offenses related to the federal investigation and prosecution against Christian Ortega Lopez, a Venezuelan national residing unlawfully in the U.S. and with alleged ties to the criminal gang and U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization Tren de Aragua. U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison said, judges are responsible for upholding our country's laws. It is beyond egregious for a former judge and his wife to engage in evidence tampering on behalf of a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member accused of illegally possessing firearms. According to court documents, Homeland Security was investigating this person, Ortega Lopez, after receiving an anonymous tip that he was unlawfully present in the U.S. in the possession of firearms. Subsequent investigation confirmed he illegally entered the country in December 2023 in Texas. He was released shortly thereafter due to overcrowding at the Border Patrol facility. The evidence showed he had posted multiple photos and videos on social media showing him and other illegal aliens handling firearms at a shooting range in New Mexico. Distinctive tattoos confirmed his identity. Some social media activity suggested an affiliation with Tren de Aragua. The FBI in January of this year, Homeland Security in January of this year received a tip that this man was unlawfully residing with other illegal aliens at a property in Las Cruces owned by Nancy and Jose Cano. Prior to his resignation in March, Jose Cano served as a judge of the Dona Area County Magistrate Court. On February 28th, Homeland Security executed 2 federal search warrants in connection with the investigation, resulting in the arrest of Ortega Lopez and multiple associates and the seizure of 4 firearms. Okay, and on a March 7th call with Ortega Lopez, Nancy Cano, the judge's wife, who had the property, I guess they owned a property that he was found at, used a phone device believed to be Ortega's 4th phone to call a person named Michelle via WhatsApp. Then initiated a FaceTime call between Michelle and Ortega Lopez using her personal phone. Okay, fine. Jose Cano, the former judge, according to the authorities, admitted to destroying Ortega's cell phone by smashing it with a hammer approximately 5 weeks prior, believing it contained incriminating photos and videos of Ortega with firearms. Okay. Jose Cano is charged with 1 count of tampering with evidence, and Nancy Cano is charged with 1 count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence. That is what they're charged with. In this case, where the authorities say, if I'm getting this right, that Jose Cano smashed a phone which they believe belonged to this person who was in the country illegally and living at their property. If I have this right. And the judge, I guess, resigned in March. Did I get that right? Oh, I'll post a link to the press release so you can read it yourself. I'm posting a link to the press release so you can read about that yourself. But that's that New Mexico case that some people had mentioned earlier. Yeah, AP summarizes that by saying the former judge told investigators he believed photos on the phone would reflect negatively on the tenant and threw away what remained of it after smashing it with a hammer. The judge resigned last month, says AP, after the State Judicial Standards Commission sought to suspend him, saying he was accused of letting 3 members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua live on his property and have access to firearms. Oh, also, AP says in a court filing that New Mexican former judge, now Cano, AP says in a court filing that former Judge Cano denied the characterization of the men living at his property as gang members. He said each of them was subjected to thorough and rigorous proceedings with ICE agents when they entered the country. He said he had no knowledge that they had any supposed gang ties. He said he and his wife allowed the men to stay in their spare studio apartment in April. He said that the men told him and his wife that they had requested asylum on entering the U.S. and then were released with dates for their requests. He said the men showed paperwork to back up their stories. So the AP is saying in this New Mexico case that the man, the former judge in New Mexico, who's been charged for tampering with evidence, basically, what was it, tampering or destroying evidence or whatever it is, they say that tampering with evidence. They say that he says he and his wife basically, it sounds like rented out their room. I don't know I assume they were renting it out, but they let these men stay there at an apartment they had, that the men told them that they had applied for asylum and that they had no idea these people had any gang ties or alleged gang ties. And that the men had been released. The men told him and his wife, he said, that they had been released with court dates by immigration's officials, and that the men showed paperwork to him and his wife documenting this. Anyways, I don't know where that case is going, but that gives you a sense of former Judge Cano's side of the story. AC says they rented the guest house on their property. Yeah, it was a spare studio apartment. I don't know what I don't know what really happened and where that case is going, but I just thought I'd give you that background information. Secret Squirrel thinks the guy sounds pretty ignorant. Stalio thinks the former judge's story is ridiculous. Douthis thinks that feels a little more criminal than a judge not wanting arrests going on outside their courtroom. Anyways, so look, I'm interested in both these cases and seeing where they both go. I don't know how the court proceedings are going to happen with these, how it's all going to play out with these cases. Maybe if there's big news on these cases, in particular the judge one in Milwaukee, we'll do another stream. I'll have to see where things go with that. But I can tell you that for sure, we're going to come on the air a little later tonight in about 4.5 hours or so and cover the funeral of Pope Francis. The funeral starts at 4, but we're going to come on before that and do pre-coverage. So I hope you can join us for that. Hopefully I can stay up. But that is the plan. So I'm going to start wrapping up this stream. But I really appreciate you guys being here for our coverage. By the way, I do want to just check a couple things here. Let's see here. Yes, Squid Ink had written in saying that the New Mexico judge was an acting judge at the time of the the investigation into what was going on on his property. One of our viewers asked about India and Pakistan. I'm keeping an eye on the situation. I mean, there's tension there. I've been posting about it on there's tensions there. I don't really want to go into it right now. I've been posting about it on my X account. Maybe we'll do a stream about it in the future. I don't really know what's going to happen with that situation. So, but maybe we'll do a stream on it. I don't have any big new developments right this second, but it's something I'm keeping an eye on. Also, once again, my direct messages on X are not working. Maybe I can get them to work by refreshing them. Anybody else's direct messages on X not working? So if you sent me a direct message on X, I can't see it right now. Well, I'm here. Our viewer Joe Soul had written in earlier and said, Joe's comment was, where is it here? Joe's comment was, this judge thought this was the sound of music. That's what Joe said. Thanks to Dewey for your support, by the way. Thank you, Dewey. Thanks also PZ Papa Zulu, who thinks both judges will be convicted. So I hope you join us a little later on tonight. I'm sorry if you sent me... Oh, now I can finally see my messages again. Sorry, before I couldn't see them on X. Our viewer Back the Badge Wisconsin says we live in Wisconsin and have known she's done this many times before, but just not caught. That's what our viewer Back the Badge Wisconsin said. Sorry for the delay in seeing your comment. Back the Badge Wisconsin. Okay, anyways, we will be back in a few hours to cover the funeral. So maybe I'll see you in a few hours. I hope you can tune in if you're awake. Subscribe and follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news stories without an agenda. I will post updates about the various stories we talked about tonight and other stories as I see them on my X account, which is @Lookner on X. You can follow me there for breaking news updates @Lookner on X. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for this coverage. Also, a lot of comments in the chat room. Appreciate people participating in the chat and sending me news updates and sending me your comments and questions. Thank you. And, turn notifications on so you know when we're going live. we go on live whenever big breaking news happens. I can't tell you when in advance when that's going to happen, but if you want to get a notification whenever we go live, our notification system works really well. So turn on the notifications, the Discord notifications. They're free. To sign up, the mods will post the link to the notifications in the chat. You can find the link in YouTube and Facebook in our description of this video as well. So sign up for the notifications. And huge thanks to our moderators for being here. You guys are awesome. They're the reason why we can have chat rooms, is our moderators, keeping it civil and respectful in the chat. Beth, Mythical, and our other YouTube moderators, thank you so much for being there on Twitch. Sarah and our other Twitch moderators, thank you. On Facebook, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, thank you. Jeff Burnett, our viewer on Facebook, thinks more judge arrests to come. Our viewer Suzanne Berry, by the way, says, I don't think she did anything wrong. I think is Suzanne talking about the judge in Wisconsin? I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in Suzanne's mouth. Thank you to all of our moderators, though. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who donated, by the way. Very nice of you. That is what allows the channel to exist, is your support. So very much appreciate that. I think I thanked everybody before. Did I get everybody? Kenzen 7X. Thanks for the bits on Twitch. And Steve Smoke. Thanks for your support on Twitch. Thank you. I think I thanked Valor too for subscribing. Thank you. Thank you also for all your support, PZ Papa Zulu, who mentioned a Breitbart article claiming there were gruesome articles on the alleged gang member's cell phone in the New Mexico case. I haven't heard about that. Anyways, but BZ, I haven't read that much about that case. But thank you, I'll try to read more about it later. Thank you, PZ Pop Zulu. Thank you, everybody else, for your support as well. Very kind of you. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you. So, by the way, we do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not live. The Discord chat, it's free. A bunch of our viewers like doing that. Check it out. It's the same link as the notifications link. The free notifications link. Thanks to our Discord moderators, too, for all you do. Another way to find out when we're going live, by the way, follow us on X, at Agenda Free TV. I post there when we're going live. I post updates about the channel. Ooh, hold on one second here. I post there when we're going live. I post updates about the channel. And at Agenda Free TV. There you go. Where is this thing got messed up here? There we go. Okay, we're back here.
Nice. Wisconsin.
We're good right there. Okay, hold on. Hang on a moment. Oh, turn the YouTube, if you watch us on YouTube, turn the YouTube notifications on. It's confusing how to do that. If you want to turn on the YouTube notifications, give you another heads up when we're live, go to, for YouTube notifications, here, you subscribe to the channel, and then you got to subscribe to the channel, and then after you subscribe, you click the notifications bell. You click that bell, and then you choose all notifications. That's how you do it. Why is this all messed up? Okay, and I certainly want to thank our subscribers on Facebook for supporting the channel, like Robert Rial II and Rita Evans Lang, and Lou Green and LT. Thank you. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, thank you. And all of our other Facebook subscribers, our Twitch subscribers, thanks so much for subscribing there. Like, hey, Douthis gave a gift sub to Billy Joe. Thanks, Douthis. Thanks to Valor for subscribing, Ivory John for subscribing, Massachusetts guy, Matthew Kohai 3, who is also moderating. Thank you, Matthew Kohai 3. Our subscribers like Chi-Town Bear, Devil Doc, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. Wall Street and Shaggy, Gina Pina, And our other Twitch subscribers, thank you. And our YouTube members, thank you so much, all of our YouTube members. Jake from State Farm, good to see you, Jake. Dennis Kennedy. Roger Shoemaker, Jimmy ZNJ. Thanks again, Sean TV, for all your support. Really appreciate it, Sean. Joe Hart PWDS. Thanks for being a member. Chung Peter, UV Lightning, Chris N, Yvonne McMillan, Linda Forsyth, Dean R, Context Clueless, Chris N. The funeral, the Pope Francis funeral, which we're covering, starts at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be coming on shortly before then to cover it. With video coverage. Jesse James, thanks for being a member. Mona L, Roger Shoemaker, Mama 457 Rose, TJ Adams, Patricia Grace, Raven Knight, Waltham, CAC 813, John Flick, Dean R, Leslie Ladyhawk, Just Me. Did I say Evelyn in Maine? Mona L, Bernie C, Red Squirrel, Jojo I Am to You, Dean R, CAC, Lady Red, Miss Annie. Thank you, members. PH Survivor 92, Cogito Ergo Sum. All right, guys, going to wrap it up. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Liborio Maro, for watching. Eagle Eye, thanks for watching. Christy Claft, Melissa Terry. Thanks to all of our viewers out there. Jarrett Najalki. Stasha Morgan thinks we're in a constitutional crisis. All right, guys, wrapping it up. So if you're up with us late in a few hours, I'll see you then. That is it for now. Thanks for watching our live coverage of this story. You've been watching our live coverage update on the FBI arresting a Milwaukee judge for allegedly attempting to help an undocumented immigrant evade arrest by immigration authorities. And we will have coming up later tonight coverage of the funeral of Pope Francis. That is it for now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.